All right, we're good.
Okay. Okay,
Uh,
so you were going to suggest something about direct messages, right?
yeah, we'll just answer a couple for a few minutes, and if anyone has any more questions, DM us, and I think we should maybe have a part two sometime.
I think this is probably necessary at this point. So, yeah, I think there seems to be a whole lot more to be covered here, and we didn't get to really many of the questions. So maybe we'll take one or two here, and then, like DJ said, you guys can direct message us the questions. We'll try to consolidate them, and then maybe in the near future we'll think about a part two.
Yeah, Daryl had a great question. If you want to re-ask that, if you're on here.
Yeah, so for those of you guys who just asked questions and we missed it because Instagram decided to cut us off because I guess nobody's allowed to have a conversation more than an hour. I don't know.
Not that fire.
Just re-ask.
Yeah.
I felt it. I felt it. It could be China that cut us off too. We started talking about sex robots and they're like, nope, Chinese firewall. You're done.
They're probably about to release those soon, you know? Can't be talking about them.
Well, yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Whoever has the robot is having sex with them, right? I mean, do they just store it in their closet when they're done?
If it had that capacity, I guess people would, yeah. I don't know. It's probably bound to happen in Japan first. I don't know. Is that racist of me to say?
Super racist, man. We got a question. How to relax muscles after hours of hand balance practice?
Yo, okay. Should I go?
Oh, that's all you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this might even get into like the topic of pain and the nervous system, because I think counterintuitively, the solution to relaxing muscles might not be to to target the muscles themselves. It might be to target your nervous system. So if you find that you're holding a lot of tension in your muscles after hand balancing, like for example in the small muscles in your pecs and in your traps and in your sternocleidomastoid, and it's getting a little bit uncomfortable after practice, there are I don't know. You can use manual self-therapy techniques like an acupressure ball or like one of those myofascial release balls. Target the area, breathe on it, put it on an area of tension, take a deep inhale, and then on the exhale try to let the muscle relax as much as possible, and then just move the ball around to various spots that are holding tension. You might do the same thing with a foam roller, or you could put your trap, for example. I do this sometimes. You put your trap underneath some kind of bar, like if you have a gymnastics parallel bars, or if you have like a stair railing, just slide your shoulder underneath the stair railing, push up with your legs. Don't use your upper body muscles. Just push down into your feet and push your body up into the rail, and to the extent that you want pressure on that area, and then just breathe into it. That's kind of useful. But again, that's targeting the muscle itself. So if you want a technique for targeting the nervous system, I've found this breathing technique that works really, really well. After I practice hand balancing, it's useful because sometimes even when I practice hand balancing, I can get a little bit headachy if I do a long session, and a lot of tension in my neck and a lot of tension in my traps and stuff like this, and it can cause like slight sort of dizziness or headaches. So what I do is I slide my ass up against the wall. I put my feet up the wall, and I'll elevate my pelvis. I'll elevate my pelvis on like a soft surface, so it might be like a couple of blankets folded up, or a couple of yoga mats folded up, or a soft yoga block. So I put my feet up the wall, and then the breathing is like this. It's a diaphragmatic breath. So you take a deep inhale using the diaphragm. So you pull the breath all the way down into the stomach, and then let it out. And do this, 4 or 5 times just to get the feeling of having a diaphragmatic breath, and then once you get the feeling of breathing into your diaphragm, you start to elongate the exhales. And so my suggestion, you can start, it's different for everybody, and it depends on how long your lung capacity is. how large your lung capacity is, but rather it can be like 10 to 15 to 20 seconds, maybe not a whole lot more than 20 seconds exhale. And when you exhale, do it through your teeth like you're making a snake sound to control the pace of the exhale. And so it's kind of like just like like letting the air out of a balloon. And so you take a big as you can, deep diaphragmatic breath, and then exhale like that, like a snake or a deflating balloon for 10 to 20 seconds at a time. And you repeat this breath at least 10 times. So, and probably not more than 20 or 30 times. So maximum 30 times would be, and a minimum of 10 times. And what this does is it sort of deprives your brain of a little bit of oxygen because you're taking a big fat inhale into your lungs. And the exhale is really is significantly long. So it's not allowing you to take more breath in. So the pace of your inhale is, or the gaps between your inhales is quite long. And so what happens is your brain, because of the lack of oxygen, starts to shut down a little bit. And your central nervous system will also do the same. And it can let go a lot. It can let go a lot of it can let go of a lot of tension in your nervous system just by shutting down the brain a little bit and shutting down the central nervous system. The muscles will also start to relax. That's just my experience with the breathing. The only risk there is that if you make the breath too long, or you try to force the breath into being longer than it should be, then your heart will start to race and your adrenaline will start to kick in and you'll start to panic a little bit. So if you find that your heart is racing or you have a feeling of panic while you're doing this breathing, then make the breath a little bit shorter and more natural on the exhale. So that's one technique I found after my hand balancing practice that really helps to relax my skeletal muscular system, and without doing a whole bunch of like manual therapy release stuff on my muscles. Hope that's helpful. And again, if you have high blood pressure or if you have heart problems or something like this, probably not a great practice for you to just jump into without consulting, some medical professional. But yeah, that's a given. I don't know. What do you think about that, DJ?
I've just been doing a few of those breaths while you're talking. Feels nice already. Yeah, I would say even if you're find yourself rolling, releasing a muscle, you're still really not doing shit to the muscle. You're still working on the nervous system. I mean,
exactly.
Like you said, that's what it all comes down to. You're trying to release that neural tone. That's why there's not like a knot there. It's just contracted in a sense, or there's tension.
Right.
And your nervous system has control of that. So I think that's a great strategy, is the breathing. And I would also look into, it's a little different for hand balancing, but other exercises, you might want to look into why is this particular area getting so sore? Oh, yes.
This is Chocolate. He's a friend's dog that we're dog sitting for these couple of weeks.
Is he wearing pajamas?
He's super sweet. Yeah, it's cold here, and he's a little frail thing, so he's wearing doggy pajamas. Look at this doofus. He's a good boy. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
That's the greatest interruption ever. Dude, we got Daryl's question up here.
Yeah, let's go for it.
There is a value in choosing movement goals for your students / clients, i.e. pull-up, ass-to-grass squat, if they don't have specific goals for themselves? And what guides your choices?
That's a fantastic question. Wow.
That's a really good question.
Do you want to try this one first?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at this one. So if someone just comes in and their goal is to just start some sort of practice, a general fitness practice, I'm going to go for the basics, squat, hinge, push, pull. And anything you choose for those is fine. I mean, there's the basic efficient ones we've been taught, but those basic movements, and also not just doing that with an external load, but controlling their body while doing it. Um, and also, carrying load, basic conditioning. That's what I generally use, just because I think it's a good I mean, those things are for a reason. They're good, just general exercises. And we did just take those small things out of an infinite number of variable movement variability, but it's a good framework to start with. So, yeah, just those basics. What do you think, D?
Yeah, the movement basics are great. Like, looking at just, human movements, like, getting up, getting down, standing, squatting, walking, simple stuff, evaluating those postural and simple mechanical stuff can be useful. But here's my thoughts on it. Maybe the question is wrong. Maybe you're saying that they don't have movement goals. They don't have, they don't want to, like, maybe they don't have a specifically, I want to do this kind of pull up, or I want to have an ass to grass squat. But they do have goals, for sure. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. They didn't just wander in, it's like, hey, I saw your face and I'm here. That's it. Like, if they came to you for practice, they came to you for some reason, right? And they want to improve something. And even if they don't articulate that in terms of a postural goal, they have something like, this is missing from my life, or I want to be able to, even if it's just something like I want to be able to pick up my kid more, or play with him, and my back is just fucking killing me all the time, or I want to. I'm a BJJ practitioner, and I want to stabilize my shoulder joint in this particular way, or I'm a soccer player, or I sit in the office a lot, and I have this, and I want to be able to move better in this way, or feel better in this way. So they have some kind of goal. Like, I want to feel this, or if you ask anybody, you say, well, what do you want? Articulate it how they want to articulate it. What do you want to do? And then if you're equipped enough as a teacher, you can translate that into movement language and say, okay, if I want to take them to this place and get them where they want to go, then what tools do I need to use? What do I need to employ in order to open up those possibilities for them? So maybe that's helpful, is to reframe the question. That's my 2 cents. Yeah.
So Devin, what if, I hear this a lot, what if the answer is, I just want to look good?
Yeah, then tell them to go to South Korea and get plastic surgery.
Oh,
I don't know.
That guy?
It's cheap there. No, I don't know. That's totally a joke. Don't get plastic surgery, everybody. Don't do that. I mean, if you want to or already have, that's cool. And it's cheap in Korea, if you're wondering. So, not that I would know. Say what?
A little bit of Botox never hurt, right?
I can't say that that's true, but but Botox. And well, yeah, that's a good question, DJ. Because I in yoga in China, it's funny because in China I get that more than anywhere else. People are unapologetically interested in aesthetics here. The women who show up to my classes in particular, they'll say it outright. They're like, I don't want to learn that. I'm not interested in this. I came here because I want to look this way, or I want to learn this pose, and it looks cool, and I want to be able to show my friends on WeChat. That's why I came. And it's kind of refreshing in a way, because at least they're transparent. I think I lost the sound, DJ. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a little bit refreshing in a way. So.
Still there?
I'm almost out of battery, so Hold on a second, guys. I want to get to this question, but I need my charger. Oh, so if you guys want to see where I am in the mountains of Guangxi province, right here. Here's out my window.
Dude, that's beautiful.
And you might be able to see, oh shit, I almost fell out my fucking window. And there's sort of the mountains in the background. There's all rice paddies, rice fields, and vegetable crops there. If you're curious. If you're not, fuck you. All right, so, all right, just a second.
That's a pretty lame background.
Is it? Yeah.
I would hate to wake up to that every day.
No, bro, it's living the dream here. Well, I mean, there are a lot of challenges as well. For sure, there are a lot of challenges living in China, but in many ways, it's a dream to be here, man. It's such a beautiful place and so inexpensive, and I'm allowed to just practice a lot without working a lot. So it's awesome.
That's awesome, man.
I've been in China for like 3 years now. I just can't bring myself to leave.
Dude, I gotta come down there someday.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's so much to experience here, and especially if you like climbing, Yangshuo is a beautiful place to be. There's a huge climbing community here, and it's really you can swim in the rivers. The air is clean. You can hike. You can rock climb. You can bicycle everywhere. It's just it's a dream place.
That's awesome.
So that's a good question. That's a good question you asked, DJ. The way you phrased it, because it's like, to a certain extent, I don't want to judge people's motives and say that they're wrong for wanting those things, because there is some value in aesthetics, and it's not wrong to want it. It's not wrong to focus on the way things look to a certain extent, but to use this as a primary focus, or to use this as a primary motive for moving your body, I think is a pitfall of practice. And as a teacher, I feel that I do have a responsibility to acknowledge that distinction. If I just say it's all the same, and however you come to practice is how you come to practice, and all that yogic bullshit that you hear in class, it's like, no, there is a difference between focusing on aesthetics and focusing on quality of movement, or focusing on principles of movement, or focusing on learning something about yourself through moving. Like, these are distinct motives, and they have distinct consequences, and you can't dismiss them from practice. You can't say that there's no difference in value there. There is a difference in value, and I would say that it is. So if somebody comes to me and says, I want a thinner waist, I might say one of a couple things. I might say, I'm not the right teacher for you right now in this moment. If you want that, here are some things that you can think about doing. If that's really what you want after a long reflection, you want a thinner waist, you want your ass to look better, and that's what you're doing. That's what you're up to, and that's what you decide is most important to you. Here's where you can go to get that, and here's my suggestion. But I'm not the right teacher for you. But if I don't take that approach, the other approach I would take is it's a long process, and it usually has to be undertaken in a sort of longer, intensive format. But I do my best to restructure the paradigm of practice itself. So I suggest subtly, I'll take them on and say, okay, that's great, but I'm going to teach what I'm going to teach, and here's how I'm going to teach it, and here's why I'm teaching it, and I hope that you can see some value in this. And then over time, they either see the value in what I'm doing or they don't. But teaching to aesthetics as a primary focus and a primary motive is not something that I am willing to do as a teacher at this point in my practice. Not to say that that's the wrong reason for coming to practice, or that it should never ever be a concern to any degree, because it can be. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Very politically correct answer.
If you want to just work on aesthetics, hit me up or go to my website.
This guy.
My 'cause that's me. So that was my main goal. In what is that? A dragon outside?
It's actually a pond of ducks.
Oh, okay.
There's a
Ducks.
pond.
We have
There's
those here.
8 ducks, and there's 8 ducks and 6 geese.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we have ducks and geese here. It's just it sounded like some sort of a monster. But I was saying, yeah, when I got into a more movement practice, it wasn't because my goals ultimately changed. It was because just focusing on aesthetics brought me to injury because I neglected other things.
Okay.
And really the way that brought me back to be able to train for aesthetics was a more movement. So I would tell people, if you want to look good, do you want to look good when you're, because I see a lot of people who looked great, but you see them 10 years later, 5 years later, they're out of shape, you know, and you say, what happened? They don't say they stopped working out or they didn't want to keep working out. They got injured. They just couldn't sustain it. So I think it takes some perspective to say we're also incorporating longevity and, you know, other things that are going to help you get towards your goals in the long run. Because any movement practice done right, you're going to look, it's going to have aesthetic effects. But if that's all you're focused on, ironically, it might take you away from that, and you might lose it.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
sure.
just
And
shifting the perspective is big on that. But honestly, I feel like that's a big goal. It's still a goal for me, but I place it in a larger perspective now.
Sure. Yeah. There are times. I think there are times in my practice when it has been a goal for me to look a certain way, but I wouldn't see those points in my practice as something that I want to replicate or something that I want to embody. I would see them as points of slippage in my practice. Like for me, the physical body is and its appearance is a way to evaluate. Can be a metric for evaluation of quality of movement. It can be a metric for evaluation of functionality. Not always. Like the way something looks isn't always the way it's working inside, but it can be. And the physical body is also usually a good measure for disposition. So like somebody's posture is usually indicative of how they're feeling. If you watch them move, or you watch them stand, or you watch them sit, or how they're holding themselves from day to day, the posture can be informative in this way as well. But I don't use physical aesthetics as a guide or a motive for my practice. Not to say that you can't do that, but I just see that that's a backwards way of thinking of it, and it can have prices that I'm not really prepared to pay.
But you're jacked.
Maybe that's.
I don't know.
Say what?
I said you're jacked, though.
Oh, it's an accident, though. That's what I'm telling everybody. No,
You have a great physique. I don't think that's.
Thank you.
It's a result of your movement practice. I mean, along with genetics and all these other things, but it is a result of your movement practice.
Well, I mean, it's been an interesting journey for me. Yeah, it's not a bad thing for sure to look however you look is fine. You know, it's great, and it can be a symptom. It can be a symptom of what's going on inside, and it can be a symptom of quality movement. I think Ito I don't like to cite Ido much because he's already so goddamn popular. That
OG.
it's almost trite, but yeah. So, but one thing he does say is that I already lost it.
Movement over muscles?
No, no, it's not all that stuff. Maybe it'll come back to me. I think it has something to do with I lost it. I'll come back to it. But what I wanted to share with you a moment ago is that my personal journey through practice has been a long and varied one. And so, like in high school, I was focused on sprinting and track and soccer, and so I was fairly muscular. And to one degree, I got up to like 165 pounds in high school, and for my height, I'm only 5'9", so that was, and I had very little body fat, so that was actually quite muscular for me at that time. And I was sprinting a lot. I was running 200 and 400 meters, focused on that. And then when I went to college, my track coach was a distance coach, so he was focused on mostly cross country athletes, 5K, 10K athletes, and I just trusted him because he said that he could coach me to be a national caliber 800-meter runner. So I just took his program on, but it was really high volume and a lot of distance stuff and a lot of aerobic threshold stuff. So during that period, my body changed a lot, and I noticed it. Like it had an impact in my life. Like I went from 165 pounds down to 148 pounds, which is like 67 kilograms. And
wow.
And that's a significant change in your body, and the quality of my movement practice changed as well. Like I was running different distances. I wasn't doing plyometrics anymore. I wasn't lifting weights. I was just running, and so my body changed, and I didn't just notice it in terms of feeling. Like it had an impact on me in the way that I see my body, in the way that I saw myself as a human being. And then later, after I left running behind and I went to yoga, I stayed pretty thin because I was eating a largely vegan diet. I was vegan for like a year, vegetarian for 3 years, and for some reason my body didn't respond well to that. I was doing it fairly intelligently, but my body didn't respond well to that diet, so I continued to lose weight, and I was quite thin. I stayed at around, just under 150 pounds, 145 to 150 pounds roughly, and then I went and I left yoga behind as a specialized discipline and started to explore more weights again, and started to explore gymnastics rings, and started to explore strength training and all this stuff in an intensive way. And I went back up to 77 kilograms, which is the heaviest I've ever been. Now I'm 77 kilograms, which is about 170 pounds, I think. So, and at my height, 5'9", 170 is not huge, but it's a lot. It's stockier, It's this guy. How tall are you, DJ?
I'm 5'11".
Okay, yeah. And what do you weigh now?
I'm 185.
Yeah, so significantly. So yeah.
You're more jacked than me, dude.
2 inches though, that's not much. 2 inches difference is not much. But my point was that, in all those fluctuations, in my body type or the type, I don't know, the composition of my body and my constitution, it wasn't just my body that was changing. Like that changed my psyche in a very important way. My self-perception changed through all of that. So I want to be clear, I'm not saying that aesthetics don't matter. They do, and they matter in terms of self-perception. They matter in terms of how we perceive ourselves in space, and our proprioception and spatial orientation, and our weight, our body weight matters. All this stuff matters, but not as a primary motivating factor for movement and movement quality. That's just what I think. But I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop ranting now and probably get on to another question if we're ready.
Yeah, do that.
Any insights on increasing forward fold flexibility and how to stretch back muscles in a safe way? That's one. Yuva's been waiting a while for that question. And I told her that you might have some insights on that because you teach a lot about hip hinging and forward folding.
Yeah, I would say the biggest problem I see when people who are trying to get that, I think he said posterior chain flexibility or stretch, really you should look at the opposite side of your body and look at that strength of flexion, hip flexion. Because I'm guessing that's not there, and it's not really a hamstring issue that they're being tight. You just don't have the active mobility to get forward into that position. So I would really work on that first, because I'm sure with a few activation things, your hamstring will you'll be able to fold over like that. So really, most of the time it's a strength issue. Everyone's different, but I would suggest focusing on that. So look at the opposite side of your body and being able to actively pull into flexion, and then you'll probably see that your forward fold passively will open up a lot more. What do you think, Dee?
Yeah. There's a if you go on my story highlights, you'll see an exercise where I squat down, and this won't be applicable to everybody, and the depth and range of your squat might be different. But I stand a yoga block on its second tallest side, and I sit my butt on I put my sacrum, toward the yoga block, and I keep it on the yoga block, and then I put my fists on top of each other, and I try to actively curl my spine into flexion, using my anterior, anterior chain, whatever you want to call it, using the muscle structures on the anterior side of my trunk to curl my spine into flexion, and try to touch my head down to those blocks, and so that's one way of taking DJ's perspective and looking at how to actively pull yourself into ranges of flexion, instead of just thinking about it as like, oh, my back's tight, so I need to stretch my back. So I think I agree with what DJ said. Looking at the opposite side of what's going on the opposite side is really useful, because where you're failing on one side probably has something to do with what's going on the other. But not only that, and it's a little bit hackneyed or cliche in the movement community to talk about spinal waves, but they are really, really effective. And if you use a wall as a guiding mechanism, or a sort of an objective surface for spinal waves, and you put your back to a wall and you try to move each piece of your spine and sort of touch one vertebrae at a time up the wall and roll up the wall with your spine, and really articulate with each vertebrae, it will show where there are imbalances in your flexion. And you can do the same thing with extension as well. It will show, the wall doesn't lie, so it'll show where there's missing pieces, where there's gaps that are not touching the wall. This has to do with your ability to articulate your spine, and it's not only, if there's limits in the posterior chain, there's limits in the anterior chain in the same sense. But that's a huge subject. But I hope what DJ and I said have been useful for you there, Yuva.
Real movement project. You're way bigger than I am.
Real movements projects that I'm way bigger.
Yeah, and that dude knows what he's talking about. So
Whoa,
I
whoa,
just want
bro.
to get
So,
third opinion on that. I'm just saying, you
so
need to
should we
stop
find?
focusing so much on aesthetics and getting jacked, and
Mm.
really, there's more to movement than that. You know, there's
I
a
th-
it's a meditation that we're doing here.
So what's the solution now? We fight? What do we, we
We're
got to
gonna
roll
have
this
to
out?
we gotta
Do
get
you
the tan, oil up, and just pose off. You know,
do you roll, by the way? Do you practice BJJ?
dude, not enough to say I do. Um,
Okay.
I go when I can, and I love it, but I'm not very good at it.
Okay. Just curious. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm not as involved with it as I like to be, and I was just recently invited to Brazil for a workshop, so might be a great opportunity to study it a little more intensively.
Wow, that's awesome.
When I,
Hell yeah.
when I go there. But so what do you think, DJ? You have time? Do you want to do one more, or do you want to start to take DMs and call it quits?
Yeah, let's take one more. I think someone, Matt Finster said, the Edo saying you were looking for, was it practice for exposure versus exposing your practice?
No, it was something to do with aesthetics. I can't remember it. Thanks for that though. Um,
I
something
have something to say
about
about that quote, though.
what?
Um, I have something to say about that Edo quote, practicing for exposure versus exposing your practice. Um, I mean, pretty much I'm practicing for exposure. Or let me rephrase that. My Instagram and stuff I post isn't my practice. It's the exposure, and I think we went over that in the beginning. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think that's necessarily bad. I think the ego it can be a great help um, if you harness it and use discipline. So my training is a lot different from what I expose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you get caught up in only doing the exposure, of course, you know, you're gonna run into some problems. But I think that being a driving goal isn't necessarily bad. I think the ego kind of has its place. I'm not gonna demonize it. Say, you know, there's no ego involved in this, because I think there is a lot of times, no matter how we put, you know, some fluffy um, ideals in front of our motives. But yeah, when I read that Ito quote, which I know what he means, it's a great, he's putting something. I also think the other side can be used as well, and it goes both ways.
Yeah, and yeah, I understand what he means by it too. But to his credit, I think he's also shared that he's used his physique, he's used fancy tricks, he's used all this stuff to get attention in the early stages of his teaching, and he's not ashamed of that. Um, and um, I think I'm in that boat as well, because if you're not a multimillionaire like Ito is, and you don't have millions of people following your every word, and sort of like this cult-like thing going on. I mean, credit to him. I'm not saying that's a negative thing, but I'm saying if you don't have that, then it can be tough to get the right exposure as a teacher. And platforms like Instagram are useful because it gets people like you and I out there who have something valuable to offer, and who might not otherwise have the reach to do so, or have the resources to do so. I'm not rich, never have been, don't have the resources to do a whole lot of broad reach marketing and stuff like this, and I never paid for any marketing outreach. I just go by word of mouth and by what I share here on Instagram. So I think certain tactics are acceptable, but there's a line. Like when I go, sorry to call out Aloe Yoga. Actually, I'm not sorry to say I'm not sorry. But Aloe Yoga, what's going on with them right now, and the teachers that they're employing, and how much they're pushing sort of material products and clothes, and the teachers are always saying, like, here I am doing this yoga pose and also wearing aloe, and you should too. it's spreading the wrong message, and it's not. This is not what we're talking about when we say it's okay to reach people through aesthetics and because I don't see a deeper purpose of practice going on there. I don't see a deeper message that's being relayed. It's just there might be a facade there, like there might be people saying that there's something deeper going on, but that's I've seen enough to know that there isn't. It's empty. So if you're using yoga and mindfulness practice to sell people clothes, stop it. Stop. Just, you're hurting people and you're derailing their practice and you're leading them down a path of pitfalls and cliffs. It's not going anywhere. Stop. So there's that.
Get them. They're mindfully making money.
And you can say whatever you want to. Like they can say they're making money. Great for them. But like let's not try to. Let's call it what it is. You know. You don't need it. It's. I can't say that I've paused long enough on this and that it matters enough in my life that I can articulate my points exactly and clearly right now. But they know what's going on, and it's fucking fake. So take it for what it's worth, guys.
Dude, I don't even know who these people are, but
yeah, just I mean they're using like their yoga as a platform and mindfulness practice, and in some cases even meditation to sell product and to sell clothes, and that's like the primary focus. And people are fixated on these things already. They're already fixated on clothes. People are already fixated on image. They're already fixated on looking good and hair products and beauty products and if you want to market yourself as a yoga and mindfulness teacher and you want to take on that responsibility as a teacher, there's a deeper accountability there that I think you have to acknowledge, and how you portray yourself. I'm not perfect. Like I would say like the first half of my Instagram account, I wish I could just delete it from history, and probably should, because I've made mistakes in that regard too. But at least I know they're mistakes, and at least I know that doesn't lead people in the direction of practice to sell them. I've never sold anything on Instagram, but I was selling the image. I was selling the image of practice, and that wasn't it. I'll just leave it there. There's not a lot of integrity in it, and I think people know that. And if you're a student out there and you're following people who are marketing yoga clothes, watch out. Just be skeptical of that. Be highly skeptical. That's really what I want to say. Watch out, students. And if you're doing it as a teacher, just rethink your accountability. That's an important message. So, and DJ, you might not be familiar with a lot of this because it's you're not involved so much in the specialized yoga community, but I'm sure there's things in your field of expertise and specialty that get on your nerves as well. And that's one of mine. So
yeah, it sounds like Western yoga, It's all about just Western everything. It's about the money, and they're trying to monetize anything they'll take anything and turn it into money making, which I'm not knocking the hustle in a sense. I don't know how I feel about that. I want to check those people out though and put some hate comments on the thing. But troll them a little.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. It'll feed the fire. But I'm not knocking the hustle. Like, great. If you want to hustle. If you want to make money. But it's the facade. It's the mask wearing that bothers me, and that they're using. And the reason it bothers me is that they're using a field that I identify with and that I market myself in, and they're creating they're distorting the image of that field, and they're creating wrong expectations about practice, and they're derailing people's practice in the wrong direction. And so they're in many ways they're undoing a lot of the work that I'm doing, and in many ways they're creating misconceptions about what practice is for people, so that when they come to me, or when they see my advertisements, or they see something that I'm offering people, they associate it with those things. And fuck that, you know, that's really low. And they know what they're doing. These people are not dumb. These people are really not. They're not ignorant people. They're aware of the motives that they're with which they're posting these advertisements. But anyway, we should probably get back to.
But dude, you just saying that and calling it out, and speaking your mind, dude. People see the character you have, and I feel like that's why people love you and resonate with you, because they're not. Even though you look great and you're doing crazy ass shit on your posts, people love you because of you and what you stand for, and you know, it's the why behind what you do, which you're expressing right now. And you know, 1,000 people who see that are, I feel like, worth more than 1 million people who are just getting into those gimmicky advertisements, where they're being manipulated in that sense. So, dude, I think it's really important that you just said that. It already, I see people who resonated with. So that's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you, DJ. And thanks, Chris, for the support, man. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all your support in my posts so far. Yeah, it's like, it is an important message, though, and I'll stop talking about the people who are doing it, and I'll start talking about the idea instead, because it is very important to know that you don't need any more fucking yoga tights. You don't. Like, you got enough. You really do. And you don't even need yoga tights in the first place to practice effectively. You don't need any special exercise clothes. As long as the clothes let you enter a full range of motion with your body, and they don't prohibit your range of motion, they're fine. Like this was 30 kwai, 30 yuan, Chinese yuan, which is like this $5 at a local store. Yeah. I don't own any. It's a sweater. I practice in this. Like I actually practice in these clothes. They're not. You don't need to go out and buy Aloe or Lululemon or anything to have a good practice. And you might have heard a lot of teachers say this, but I really mean it. Being fixated on clothes is a distraction from practice. It's it's not like, you know, I think a lot of teachers out there, and maybe DJ, this might apply to your field and our field as well. A lot of teachers will say, like, there's this argument out there, all paths will lead to the same place, you know, like, just start practice. Any way to get people into the practice is a good way, because eventually they all go to the same place and they all end up practicing something valuable. I can't tell you that I can't tell you a perspective that I disagree with more at this point. And it's taken a long time and a lot of teaching experience to realize this. But not all paths lead to the same place. There are paths that are merely distraction and pitfalls in practice, and they lead you away from self-discovery, and they lead you away from self-inquiry. They lead you away from mindfulness. They lead you away from mind practice. They lead you away from quality movement, and they lead you in the direction of fixation, addiction, distraction, and being generally imbalanced and not well adapted. So there are distinctions, and there are paths in practice that don't lead to the same place. And clothing fixation is one of those. Image fixation is another. Yeah. So
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there, man. Because when I wear Lululemons, I feel so much better, and I wouldn't take a yoga class with an instructor who didn't wear Lululemons. Also, when I bought my Feiyus, my handstand got 10 times better. So I feel like the clothes give you certain bonus movement points that you add to your ability, kind of like special powers. So if you could just buy enough and wear them all, you could be, it'll get you to that path just so much quicker, you know?
So then, what about layers? Like, are two pairs of Lululemon tights over one another better than one? And to what extent is this like diminishing returns?
No. So you can only use one pair of Lulu pants at a time. But if you wear that over and over, it loses its power. So you have to buy a new pair every week, especially a pair other people don't have, like the new one, and that'll just step your game up all the way. You need to spend at least $100 a week at Lululemon.
Now I'm starting to understand the criteria. So but this is something that I don't, I'm just a beginner. So is there a website I can go to or training that can help me to understand these principles a little bit better in my practice?
Yeah.
Maybe just go to the Lululemon website or Alo Yoga or something.
Go to Lululemon and enter promo code StrongCamps, and you'll get the special edition. Those are the special kind. They look the same, but man, it's like steroids on your legs, for yoga.
Yeah, I give myself a steroid massage every day anyway with a Lululemon towel. Yeah.
I honestly love Lululemon,
No, I know. That's the thing, is that they make okay quality clothes. They make okay quality clothes. I don't have any, but they make okay quality clothes. And
I don't know if I could keep going on this conversation if you don't have any Lululemons, man. I'm gonna send you some.
Oh Jesus! No, I have in the past. I'm not. I don't live in a cave, but now currently I don't.
You know what?
I don't.
China would ban Lululemons, and I don't know how I feel about that.
China would ban Lululemon?
Did they ban Lululemons? Because of the freedom they give your movement?
Yeah, it's I guess they would lump it in with freedom of speech. So yeah, but if that's really true, I think I have to move. I can't stay here any longer. So because I need also my diet has changed recently. So I went from only wearing Lululemon to only wearing Alo Yoga, and I also went from I went from vegan to now I only drink sprouted baby arugula tears every day, and they're fair trade, organic.
Fair trade, yeah.
Yeah, fair trade, organic, sprouted baby arugula tears, and that's my only thing in my diet. That's really the only thing that to keep myself balanced.
And your meditation practice feeds that chi, which is really the life energy that you need to live on, right there. Arugula tears.
We have to stop now, or this is just going to get
it's getting out of control, man. Past my bedtime. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, but okay. So maybe one more for me quickly, and then we'll start to take direct messages. And it sounds like you guys are interested in doing a second part. So if DJ's up for it, maybe we can arrange a date later on.
USIC Movement has a great question for you.
Please.
You want to read that?
Let me go back. Real Movement Project. USIC Movement. All I see is Dear Devin. Did I miss it?
I'll read it for you.
I see it.
Okay.
Alan Wu Yoga mentioned in taking one of your trainings about understanding your deepest, darkest narrative and how it affects your movement practice. Yeah. Any way we could hear from you hear you touch on that? Yeah. So I think DJ's frozen here. Can you hear me, DJ? I think we're stuck. Yeah, we'll have to get. I'm going to answer your question. USIC movement. USIC movement. What's your name? What should I call you? Yuva yoga, food and workout. Any insights? Those are huge topics. Probably too big to address here, and we've only got 2 minutes left. Yeah, so Shea, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. No, I'm not vegan. I was for 1 year, vegetarian for 3 years. Now I eat meat. So I guess we're waiting for. There we go. I got him back. Yeah, Real Movement Project. Hey, man.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. So Real Movement Practice asks, what is an average day of training for you? So thank you, Real Movement Project. Can you send these, any more questions that you guys have? You can just send them to direct message. We've only got 42 seconds left on the chat, again, because we're crazy and we went a long time. So
We went so long, super long.
So long. I think we've set a record or something. And actually, USIC Movement, I think, is not part of the, USIC Movement, I guess, is back in the group now. But it's a great question, man. I think it's probably a topic for another post, though, because we're out of time.
Dude, thank you so much for the conversation. I took a lot away from that. Love hearing your thoughts. That was